Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Eleanor and I have an unhaul video for you today. I have been tidying up my bookshelves, I've been buying more books, I've been sorting them all out. I finally got my boxes over from my parents' attic of books that I put up a few years ago. I've reevaluated all my books and I have a little pile of books that I'm unhauling. Some of these are ones I've just had for a very long time and I know I'm never going to read again. It's series I've started from when I was young and I'm not going to finish, or it's books that I've had for a very long time and I just am not going to read them. So this is an unhaul. The first book is Soul Sisters by Beth Redman. This is a kind of youth Christian book. This served me well when I was like 9 or 10. It was a really good read. Just talked about how to be a good, empowering young Christian, and it's really good. But I don't need this anymore and I would like it to go to someone who would get more value out of this now. I'm just way too old for this book now, and there's no point in me keeping it, so I'd rather someone got more use out of it. The next 3 books are like Doctor Who companion kind of books. So the first one is The Blood Cell by James Goss. The next is Deep Time by Trevor Baxendale. And the third is The Last Dodo by Jacqueline Rayner. I think I've read all 3 of these actually. I definitely have read these 2. I'm not sure if I've read this one or not, I can't quite remember. I absolutely love Doctor Who. I grew up watching it, absolutely diehard Doctor Who fan. Definitely Christopher Eccleston, David Tennant and Matt Smith. Diehard 3 Doctor Who's, absolutely loved them. I went through a phase of buying a lot of these because I found them in charity shops really cheap and I did really enjoy them, but I don't really have any interest in buying more of these and reading them and collecting them. They're wee mass market paperbacks. They're good little stories. They don't link together, they're just random episodic books like you would watching the TV show. Good fun. I don't want to keep them anymore. The next book is The Declaration by Gemma Malley. I read this book probably 12 or 13 years ago, and I feel like I did this a lot when I was younger, because the way I came across books, and I didn't really have access to the internet much, I didn't realise books were parts of series, so I read this as a kind of standalone book and maybe thought it was part of a series, but didn't ever find out that there were sequels, and I only ever read the first one. That happened to a few books just because of the age I was at. I really liked this book. This was so interesting. It's a world where they've cured death by old age and lots of illnesses and things, so it's kind of stagnated and everyone takes this medication when they turn 16 and that's how they kind of live forever really. And if you have a child, one of your members of your family must die in their place, or you can opt out of taking this medicine and not live forever, and you and your partner can have one child. So this follows a young girl who was born and she wasn't given permission to exist, so she ends up in this workhouse basically, and she's kind of like a slave, and she gets trained how to be like a maid for a household, and it's just her adventure with perhaps finding her family and working out what's going on. And I just thought this was a really interesting concept. I really enjoyed this book, but I'm never going to read the rest of the series. I'm never going to read this again. It was a good story. I would recommend it to younger readers if they're interested, but yeah, I don't need to keep it. The next book I feel quite bad about getting rid of actually, and it's A Fine Balance by Rohinton Mistry. I'm not sure I've said that right either. About 4 or 5 years ago I was involved in a book swap and you gave away your favourite book to someone anonymously. They didn't know who it was, and I gave away The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern because it's a book I love, and I thought no matter the genre that the person likes to read, I thought it was quite accessible. It was historical fiction, a bit of a romance, a bit of magic, a bit of suspense. I thought it was a good well-rounder. This is a book I got back, and it's just not a book I would ever read. And if it wasn't so long I would maybe give it a go, but it's nearly 600 pages of tiny print, and it's set mid-1970s in India, and it's just a contemporary fiction about people's histories and political turmoil, and I'm sure it's a fantastic book. It's really well reviewed and well loved. It's just not something I ever read, and if it was maybe like half the length it was, I would maybe try, but I just know I'm not going to enjoy it. This just isn't what I like to read, and I feel quite bad, but I've had it for 4 or 5 years and I've not even read the first page, and I'm not going to. I would much rather it went to someone who would enjoy it. The next book is Dark Alchemy, which is magical tales from masters of modern fantasy, with some writers from Gardner, Ian Colfer and Neal Gaiman. So this is a short story collection, and I just remember being quite underwhelmed when I read this a few years ago. A couple of stories are decent, but even though it's got Neal Gaiman in it, and I absolutely love Neal Gaiman, I just have no interest in keeping it. It just wasn't that great, in my opinion. The next book is Blood Magic by Gratton. Again, this is a first book in a series, and I only read the first one. What I remember about this, it's about blood magic. So this young teen learns that when she cuts herself and lets out her blood, she's got magic and got power, and things start to happen, and she meets a boy and they fall in love, and she uses blood magic and things happen, and I think there's something to do with her mother or her parents, and discovering who she is and her magic and things like that. Yeah, I can't quite remember exactly what happened in this book. I did enjoy it at the time, but by thinking back, I'm not sure how good a book this is because of the way that the handling of the blood magic, I feel like it involves a lot of like self-harm and cutting, but not for self-harm purposes, but for the use of the magic. But I'm not sure it was written well enough to convey that, and I would be worried that younger readers would maybe think that cutting themselves is appropriate. I don't know if I'm just misremembering this because I haven't reread this in 12 years maybe, I don't know, but I just remember it being a lot about blood and cutting and knives and the urge to harm yourself to get the blood to do the magic. So I'm a bit iffy. I wouldn't recommend this. Read into this more if you're interested, if it sounds interesting for you, and be wary and check. But I just have that in my head that that's maybe a bit iffy. The next book is Paranormalcy by Kiersten. Again, this is I think the first book in a series, and I only ever read the first book, even though I loved it. So it's just a paranormal romance, mermaids and shapeshifters and like glamours, and in the paranormal world trying to fit in with the real world and trying to hide. And I think it's like a paranormal like agency, and they have like these agents who help keep the paranormal world hidden, something like that. Read this a very long time ago, never going to finish the series, never going to read this, don't need to keep it, but I do remember loving this first book. The next book is Unwind by Neal Shusterman. I read this first one paperback, and I read the second and third book in the Unwind trilogy on my Kindle. I never finished the series. The first book was good and I thought it was a really interesting concept, but I don't know, this is young adult, it's not supposed to be really creepy or horror filled or things like that, but I was greatly disturbed by this series. I don't know if you know much about it, but it's the idea that it's a far-flung like future, and they've perfected the ability to transplant, so everyone can be transplanted to other people, and if you lose your hands, you can get someone else's hands, and you get the bit in their brain that makes them work in your brain, and you can learn other languages and other skills. Like one of them was like a hand transplant, and you get the bit in the brain of a pianist, and you have their hands in the bit of their brain that's learnt the piano. And yeah, and if your kids are bad before the age of 16, you can have them unwound so they get like dismantled and used as spare parts for other people. So on the surface, it was a really interesting, like, dystopian / utopian future, and it followed an interesting cast of young characters and things like that. But I just found it really traumatic, and I don't know, there's just something that really deeply disturbed me about this concept. Maybe it didn't bother you as much as me, but I don't know, there's just something that was really disturbing about this series. Let me know if you've read the Unwind series by Neal Shusterman. And the last book is Wintercraft by Jenna Burtenshaw. This is a book I haven't read. Can't remember where I got it. Probably got it secondhand. Yeah, it's just a bit of a younger read for me, and I'm just not going to pick it up. Yeah, Better Rescue and a Secret Hidden Society. Seems like a great book, but yeah, but for aged 8 to 12, and I'm just not going to read it. So that's all the books I'm going to be getting rid of, and I'm going to donate them to the charity shop, and hope that someone else gets more value out of these books. A lot of them I have read when I was younger, and I did greatly love them, but I don't see the need of keeping them now. So I hope they're loved by someone else. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what you think of them. And just remember, these are my own opinions, and you can love these books and I can still get rid of them even though you love these books. It's not an offence against you. But be sure to subscribe if you enjoy my videos, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.